All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll come back to order. We are going to move into the next item on the agenda, which is the discussion and the decision on the FY24 priorities for the organization. Before we do that, though, I want to acknowledge that we've been joined by the organization's treasurer, Brandon Sarloy, and Governors Todd Blue and Tom Ahern, who joined us after the roll call. We're also joined by past President Steve Clausen, who is here for our meeting, which is wonderful. And we've also got a representative from the business law section, who's from Weston. So Ms. Weston, after the process, welcome, glad to have you here. With that, we're going to turn it over to now discussion about the organization's FY24 priorities. I invite everyone's attention to page 44 of the materials with the memorandum from Executive Director. And with that, I will open the floor for questions or comments about the recommendation. And I'm seeing Sunitha's hand up first. We will begin with President Sunitha.
Thank you, Mr. President. I note that on the list of priorities, there is talk about addressing issues of technology, and I'm not talking about cybersecurity. I'm talking about AI, and it was interesting. Judge O'Donnell of the Superior Court gave an amazing presentation on AI to the family law section, and it was pretty mind-blowing, actually. I think we are well past the time when, in terms of getting a technology committee together, and I would love to see a move forward on it quickly. I have been talking to certain members who are very interested in the topic, and I think there's a lot of knowledge out there. We are the tech capital of the country, arguably. So I'm hoping that we can all work together to establish an entity of some sort, be it a committee or a council. I wonder if we would start with a task force first to assess kind of what the needs are in addressing this. And I'd like to kind of just throw that idea out there for discussion.
All right, thank you very much, Sunitha. Just by, I see Treasurer has got his hand up next. Just by way of review, again, on page 44, we've got the Executive Director's recommendations for this organization. If I were to summarize, I think it's correct if I'm wrong, but they are in effect priorities certainly around member well-being, priorities circulating around use of technology to determine WSBA's role regarding regulation to protection and support. And then lastly, we'll have described the DEI focus that was described by the Executive Director as improve the experience of belonging among legal professionals in the legal community. Executive Director, do you want to talk about legal step 3 as opposed to 2?
Yes, I will. And I want to acknowledge, to some extent, it's an arbitrary number. And also, I think I was really challenging myself and as well as challenging the board that at some point we do have to narrow. I hope that ultimately we will move to more of a multi-year strategic plan process. But in the meantime, we have annual goals, and acknowledging we're already several months into the fiscal year. There is only so much that we can do in a year. I was challenging myself to stick with 3, although I will note that I have fleshed out 4 here. It was very, very difficult to make the recommendation to not prioritize rural practice. I know it is on the hearts and minds of everybody. It's still, and none of this is to say it's not an issue. It is clearly an issue. I grew up in a rural area. I know this is an issue. I've written articles about it. It's very, very important. So me not suggesting the top 3 was not to suggest it's not important. It was simply to, and ultimately, this is your decision, what you want to prioritize. And I do think there could be some benefit to continuing to identify it as a priority. That said, ultimately, I was challenging myself to recommend 3, and the reason that I prioritized a sense of belonging and the diversity topic instead was largely because we have focused on rural practice in the last couple of years, and so we have some mechanisms in place. We have the STAR committee. It's done some great work, and it's going to continue to do great work. But we do have some key milestones and projects coming up in the area of diversity. Specifically, we're going to get the results of the demographic study back, and we need to update the diversity plan. So to me, it felt timely. Ultimately, it's your decision, and that's it.
All right, thank you, Executive Director Nevin. I've got Francis, followed by Clark. I'm doing my best to kind of sweep the room, looking for hands as they go along there. So, Francis.
Actually, I just wanted to point everyone. I wanted to answer President-elect Sunita's question about the task force. Is actually reflected in page 46 of the material. That task force is in there. So that's all I wanted to point out at that time. That's all. I agree with the priorities.
All right, thank you, Francis. Going on to Kari, and then next week, Brent. Dan.
I would encourage us to adopt 4 priorities. As pointed out in Director Nevitt's report, the rural practice priority actually did receive more votes than, and not just by 1 vote, compared to one of the other ones. I'm blanking which one that is. I think it was the first one. But that being said, arguably both the first and third priorities as written are very important to rural practitioners as well. When we want to improve resources for and assistance to legal professionals and the legal community, rural practitioners perhaps need this more than any attorney in the state because of the vast, they don't have the big network of and pool of attorneys like we do on the west side. Also, for the third priority that's listed, improve the experience of belonging among legal professionals. We've all heard our friends on the east side of the state saying that was Seattle centric and that they don't feel they belong to our organization, or that we ignore them because they're on the other side of the mountains. Again, most of the people on the east side are in rural practices, and what the STAR committee is doing is trying to fill some of those gaps. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that because at least 2, probably all 3 of these are intertwined with what we're trying to do in the rural communities. The argument I saw raised in this as to why Director Devitt perhaps picked 3 and not 4 is because of resources and the lack of resources. But if rural practice is intertwined with all of these, in my mind, it's not going to take a lot of extra resources to make that a priority when it's already intertwined with a lot of what these 3 priorities include. And I would just remind people as well, there has been talk at prior Florida governor meetings to also create another at-large seat on this board, primarily for those in rural practice, which I can say the STAR committee is still looking as a possibility of doing. So I would encourage us to actually adopt 4, especially since Director Nevitt outlined nicely what that 4th priority would look like. And I don't believe it would take a lot of additional resources, since many of those resources are already in place and being utilized right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Carter. Go to Brent and then Dan.
Move to approve the presentation with 4 goals.
Second.
Well, there is a motion to approve the recommended FY24 priorities with 4 goals. Just to confirm, Brent, I'm assuming your 4th goal is rural practice. Is that correct? Okay, so clarifying there's rural practice. There's a second by Kari. So there is now a motion and a second. I do any debate or discussion regarding the motion. And I do note that Dan had his hand up before. I'm going to go to Dan first in case the comment is still pertinent, and then to Matt.
Thank you, Heather. I just wanted to echo what she said, as far as I live it daily that we're short on people. We cannot recruit or retain people where I live as far as attorneys go. You heard from the court and my hometown in May, and the crisis that was there in May is getting worse and not better. So I really do think having this on as a goal priority makes sense. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Dan, and we will go on to Matthew.
Thank you. I'm also happy to support having the legal practice too as one of the priorities. I guess my question, and this may be more for Tara, but is, and maybe for Brent, like, are we voting on just like these 4 items, or because there's some detail in here? Obviously, then this is, as I understand, these are kind of works in progress. And are we voting to like, yes, this is exactly what we want to do, or just like that this is the starting point, and that we're going to work through it as to how we instantiate these 4 priorities?
Well, I have some of my own thoughts, but because the motion was really the 3 of the executive director's recommendations plus the 4th, it went over the executive director for phosphorus.
So this will be similar to what I said last year. I think, I don't think my intent is that, like, if you all adopt this is like, these are the exact things that are happening and nothing else will happen, and if these don't happen, that's a problem. I think this is meant to give you a sense of, based on working with the staff liaisons and board members who we reached out to, this is what we think will be a good way to carry out the goal. Ultimately, if we are going to take action that would require board approval, we would come back for board approval. We wouldn't just say, well, it was in here and you approved it, so we're going to march forward. So if it had budget impact, if it was a policy change, I would intend to bring that back. I think, and I also think, again, since these are sort of one-year parties, I don't think we want to spend a bunch more meetings sort of fleshing them out as a committee of the whole. So I think if there is something in here that you disagree with, or you think something is missing that should be in here, I think now is the time to raise it, would be my recommendation.
All right, thank you, Executive Director Nevitt. Matt, any comments or observations in response?
I mean, I guess just one thing would be that I see that legal technology task force has a 2-year timeline. That seems a little long. I feel like it seems like it's going to take 2 years to decide what we want to do next. I would encourage us to have a shorter timeline for that.
All right, thank you, Matthew.
This is Brandon.
Yes, Francis. And just to confirm, this is a question or observation for the motion.
Yes, the motion. I'm not arguing against the motion, but I just Director Eden and I have had conversation about this. I'm not a huge support of the 1-year priorities, and I've made that views known over and over again. It doesn't really make sense because you can't measure anything within 1 year. Even the 1 year, we're already 1 month or maybe 2 months into this fiscal year already, and it just doesn't really make any much sense to put your priorities into 1 year, and then next year, this time next year, we're talking about, none of this would have been accomplished. Does anyone sit here and think we're going to resolve technology issue, we're going to resolve DI issues, we're going to resolve, rural practice problems and challenges in 1 year? No. This is just to give us an idea of, okay, when you're drawing your budget, when you're working on projects, have this at the top of your mind. That is what this is meant to do. And I see the wisdom in Eden saying, probably let's take less than more so that we can focus like laser on those 3 and then expand on that. It's not like, I believe Alta has always reminded us, we're not going to stop any of those other priorities or other programs and policies that we've been working on for 3 or 4 years now. This is not meant to stop that. So, but I do see the wisdom in having adding the fourth rural practice into this, and I just think that we're going to come back next year and say, hey, we had all these four. How much of this can we measure? I'm more interested in how we measure our priorities. When we have done this at the Access to Justice Board, we actually have the committees whose job is to measure how much of it did we accomplish. And those are 2 years priorities. They are not 1 year. And at the end of the 2 years, we sit down and we measure, okay, that is where we are, that is what we have been able to do, that is more of the work that we need to do. I think we need to start thinking, when we do these priorities, also think about how we're going to measure what we have done. So that's just my comment.
Thank you very much, Francis. I see Kevin Plachi has got his hand raised online, so I plan to go to Kevin next, and then we're going to go over to Todd.
Thank you, President Abel. I just wanted to follow up on Matthew's question regarding sort of if these are set in stone, and follow along on what Tara was saying. There's 2 of these priorities that involve the establishment of a task force, for example. So member wellness and the technology goal both require the establishment of a task force. So the details within what that task force would look like would be contained within the charter. And a charter, and Tara, correct me if I'm wrong, but a charter for the task force would come to the board. So working out some of these details comes later after we adopt the goals. So there's lots of work to be done on the heels of this that will involve all of your input and your approval ultimately. And then with the task force, I believe, President Abel, that you actually with the task force would appoint members to it. And our goal, I know at least with member wellness, and we're not too far down the line, obviously, with the technology thing, but would be to make some recommendations as to appointments to you, so you're not having to figure all this out yourself.
All right, thank you, Director Plachi. I confirmed the executive director that board charter language would come back to the board for approval and establishment. Let's go on to Todd.
Yeah, thank you, President Abel. The only thing I got on your observation is that I was many briefly is that the material seems to have a well-developed concept, member focus, the regulatory and public focus, and have a relatively well-developed concept, and have a plan of action milestones, almost, if you will. And so I think, with regards to technology, clearly this seems to be something that we would probably want to maintain, on a going-forward basis. It seems to occur to me that this would be, some of the committees are may shift the emphasis of their focus, depending on, to meet the realities of changing, threats, opportunities, weaknesses, et cetera, to recalibrate their, what it is that their success looks like, I guess, kind of to borrow the phrase that the executive director now was using. And so, I think that these are fairly well developed, but I think that, my understanding is that these would kind of flex and be, repurposed from time to time as we determine the necessity to do so. So I believe that these are well supported with the memorandum presented by the executive director and commander on the work well done.
All right, thank you very much, Todd. I'm going to go to Tom here just a second. Something I would just offer is, and I mentioned this, I think, at retreat, is when this organization adopts its FY24 priorities, I really view those as kind of my march orders for the coming year. We're talking to the public and we're talking to the members about what we are focusing on. That said, our existing lines of effort are going to continue. So Anyway, I want to clarify that. We'll go to Tom. I see Nancy's come up, as well. Nancy, did you intend to offer some comment as well? Sure. All right, what you do. All right, go to Tom and Nancy.
Okay, real quickly, 3.1, I thought it was very well developed, well explained, all that kind of stuff. On number 4, the thing that concerns me is access. We're going to focus on access to justice in rural and small town areas. I do a lot of work for the NAACP. There are massive access to justice issues and problems in our urban areas. And so I do my sticking 1-year goals because I'm going to be making these points next year when I'm able to make more points to be access to justice for us. And my third point is I think the fundamental goal or the fundamental purpose we should have is increasing the public's confidence in our legal system. And I see across our country this, the divisiveness we have and the not trusting governmental institutions. I think the state bar can play a significant and crucial role in making sure people understand that the court system and our legal system does provide justice for all people. People have money to hire like folks like but everybody. And so I do hope next year when we're doing this, we focus on the public perception and actually making people think that we do have a system that provides equal justice for all.
Tom, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let's go out and talk to the public at 7 meetings. All right, we're going to move on to Nancy. And did I see again down there from Director Yasky? Okay, Nancy.
So 2 out of 4 of the priorities are directed to our members, which is great. But I don't know why they're 2-year, 3-year timeline. And this is frankly one of the ongoing criticisms of the Board of Governors. Every Board of Governors, not just this one, but for decades in the past. So here's some good, well thought out plans, which are not going to be adopted. Maybe a budget will come in January, which of course is 2 months or so before the budget process for the next year starts. People who are going off the board are going to start thinking, well, they're going off the board, maybe they shouldn't be locking in other people. And pretty soon these things sort of fade away. The Board of Governors somewhere along the way has to handle things the way you handle your cases, which is not that somebody comes to see you in January and you say, I'll get back to you in October. Move forward, do things. The staff comes to work every day. The Board of Governors, I know, doing things every day. Why these long timelines? I don't get it. And I hear other people complaining too. Why does everything take so long to make decisions and implement them? In terms of like finding out what the members want and need and all, isn't that what we're doing already with Sarah's quarterly membership, I don't know what we call it, polling studies? Are we eliminating that? Are we adding to it? Are we doing something different? I think we know what a lot of the issues are. I don't think we need 2 years to figure out what the issues are. Kevin, Kevin and Tara, whoever put together this study 1, do we really need 3 years to recognize that there are lawyers that drink too much and take too many drugs and have mental health issues and kill themselves and quit? And I don't need 3 years to know that's a problem. And I bet none of you do either. I don't see why we shouldn't have budgets now on some of these things. And so my guess is Tara has the budget number in mind. So I'd sure rather see that than my $50,000 complaint earlier today. As far as the artificial intelligence, I'm sorry, I don't remember who said 2 years seems too long, but oh, for God's sakes, 2 years is too long. Other people are working on this. If we say, well, yeah, we're going to get back to you with our thoughts in 2 years or 3 years or whatever, they're gonna say, yeah, we're already working on that. Sunitha attended a presentation at the Family Law Midyear from one of the King County judges that scared the hell out of all of us. And they're already working on it. I'm sure the administrator of the courts is already working on it. I'm sure there's committees in other counties. So should we have a committee that decides the problem in 2 years? No, we got to jump on board with the other people who are working on it yesterday and add to it. We cannot be silent about the problems of, you know, I don't want to do a family law case and have a declaration or testimony by some fake person or a fake statement. You don't want it in your cases. You don't want it in your court systems. We have to get on this now because it's a problem now. And it's nice and comfortable to make a timeline, but you know, we might as well just get a Facebook account and ask if anybody thinks it's a problem that nobody has anymore. So we're old. Can't be old. We have to be young. We have to see the problem, try and work with the people that are solving it. And you know, often the Bar Association does not work with other organizations that are already doing things. We somehow think we're the only ones that might have ideas. Okay, we might have ideas in a couple of years, but somebody else has already thought of it by then. So move it along, get our budgets. And the issue about the rural communities, that's what it means public's needs. We can't just work on our members. This is a huge problem. It has so many tentacles that we have to work on. We just have to keep doing it. We have to keep allocating more resources.
All right, thank you very much, Nancy. Secretary Director, did you have any comments on your mind?
One is, I think all three of the last comments, Francis, Nancy, Tom, sort of underlined the tension that we've been going through the last few years. It's very difficult to accomplish much in a year. And also, we have a new board every year. And so there's an interest in potentially changing the direction and getting a stamp on it. And so I think that is a challenge. To Nancy's point, I mean, I don't really think it's on the board so much these long timelines. I mean, largely my team and I came up with them. I think, and I hear you, I will say these timelines, it's not 3 years to acknowledge it's a problem. It's 3 years to study the problem, develop proposals, and implement the proposals. And I acknowledge it's very frustrating how slow things go. And we also get in a lot of trouble when we aren't inclusive, when we don't include a lot of voices, when we don't include time for public comment. We are a bureaucratic organization by design, and maybe that should be shifted. But as long as we use this task force model, I think it is going to be hard to move much faster because you have to bring the task force together, you have to educate people, they have to come up with the ideas together. It's not like in a private practice where you get to decide everything you're going to do and you can just do it. We have to go through these layers of process and input. So I'd be happy to try to see if we can get these tighter. I think we certainly agree all these issues are urgent. But I also do think at the same time.
All right, thank you very much, Executive Director Nevin. So I'm seeing on Zoom the number of hands raised. I see Mary's, I see Director Platty's, and I see Todd's question for Todd. Todd, is this a new comment or is it really? Yeah. It is a new comment. Excellent. Then we're going to go in that order. We'll go Mary, Director Platty, and then Todd.
Thank you, President Abell. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that at every meeting I have brought up the fact that me and Abraham Lincoln got our law degree the same way. And now he is the sponsor of our meeting. He is our mascot, and I would just take that as a personal compliment towards me. So thank you for doing that. But in all seriousness, I do agree with Nancy to the extent that by the time these goals, and I understand the bureaucracy of it, but by the time some of these goals are accomplished, it's going to be too late. Things will already have advanced at periods for which we cannot grasp. And that's where I'm focusing specifically on the technology. It's always something that causes me concern. And every facet of my life and my career. And I think that at least as far as the technology, we should have staff, a full-time person working on this every single day dedicated to that job, in addition to the task force, because that's how fast things are moving here. So with that, I agree with that goal. I think it's an important goal, and I think it needs to be on the forefront. And frankly, we're too late. So I think that's where I sit with that, and that is a priority. In addition to echoing Kari's comments, as well as past President Clark, I think we're late with rural practice too. I live in it, I see it, it's dying. One of the first conversations I had with the lawyer after I was appointed was by happenstance at a restaurant in Omaha. And her comments to me were, we cannot find public defenders in our county, and people are staying in jail for longer periods of time. That's concerning to me. And I see that trickling down into what I would consider a larger county in Grant County, and we're having serious impacts of that. And it appears from past President Clark that they are having those issues as well. And those stakeholders did present at the meeting in May in Yakima, and it was very concerning to me. And it is a rural practice issue. I agree we need to have the wholesomeness of justice for all. Yes, we should be worried about that as lawyers, but this is an issue. This is a problem that is happening in real time, and frankly, we're too late with that as well. I really would like to see the fourth goal of focusing on rural practice be implemented as a priority, because I live it every day, and I'm telling you, it is a significant issue. And if we don't do something, there will be impacts, and greater than we can ever anticipate right now. So with that, in being Abe Lincoln's buddy, I would ask that you seriously consider passing the motion and adding rural practice to our priorities.
All right, thank you very much, Mary. We'll go to Director Platchey, and then Todd, and then Brett.
Thank you. I just wanted to add a little bit more to this conversation that Nancy brought up about the timelines and sort of the work that's going on. There's kind of two things really happening here. There's the everyday work that we do at the bar within these areas. And so I just don't want it to get overlooked that there's active work going on every day, whether this is ever considered a priority or not by the board. We're doing significant work every day through our staff. Our member wellness program, within that, we have a psychologist and a licensed clinical social worker who are providing counseling sessions to members every day. We have them working on providing educational resources on how to deal with the stress of legal practice every day. In our technology field, we have a full-time practice management advisor who gives counseling sessions or consulting sessions to our members around all areas of practice, including technology and how to utilize it, how to leverage it. And so that work is happening every day. Why we're asking and hoping that these become priorities is so we can also look at the work we do every day is moving the needle a little bit, and it's helping members on a day-to-day basis. But by prioritizing these and allowing us to put together these task forces, we can look for more systemic ways within the profession to address and answer these problems beyond the day-to-day work that we're doing. I wholeheartedly agree. When we're looking at the task force charters, we need to think long and hard about the timelines, and particularly with technology, because it is moving fast. But I just don't want it to be overlooked that there is substantial work being done on a day-to-day basis by our staff who are addressing these problems. But by creating these priorities and task force, it allows us to leverage more resources to get out into the legal profession at red and at large and look at these problems, and then look for systemic and broader ways to answer them than we can do on a daily basis in our day-to-day work.
Thank you, Director Platchey. We'll go to Todd, and then to Lorenz.
Yeah, I would thank, yeah, I would thank, Kevin, and really, he was, gave a lot of kind of what I was going to suggest, that where we really are. You know, I mean, yes, November 2nd, and we're considering our strategic objectives for the fiscal year. And of course, it's been noted, many of these continue on in the future fiscal years, but we're not starting from scratch. I mean, none of these things, with the exception of technology, but even there, as Kevin, Director Blatchy had referenced, you know, we've got dedicated staff, we've got resources that are going toward this now. You know, do we need to amplify this? You know, bring it to greater, you know, to have a greater platform for it, to be able to dive deeper, to be able to assess ongoing and emerging trends and requirements and needs, threats in facing the legal community. Absolutely, sure. And so I think it's appropriate. But you know, the STAR committee, many of the members here, former past President Clark has been involved in this. Governor Gassick has been involved. Many President Abel, you've been involved in this small town rural issue. And so, you know, none of these are starting from scratch. As was referenced, you know, there are many other organizations, many of the committees, many of the sections have been addressing these types of issues and promulgating information to our to the bar, to the legal profession. And so, you know, although sometimes we think about, you know, there's not enough urgency, you know, we're the kind of the steering committee here. We're not as Kevin identified. It's a lot of what the staff does on a day-to-day basis, and you know, whether it's Director Nagowski or who, with regards to, you know, getting the pulse, getting the message out, getting the word out to the bar, the community. You know, that work seems like it should continue, and we do have dedicated resources to that ongoing. And so we're kind of shaping as we go, and so although there is some circumspection in regards to, you know, maybe third-year governors, you know, forcing the hand of the incoming boards or whatnot, or deferring to the incoming board on some of these issues. I don't think any of these issues have popped up out of nowhere and are a big surprise to anybody. I think they're ongoing concerns among members of the bar. Now, the other comment I would make briefly is that, you know, I think sometimes we overestimate our impact on the bar at large, because we're in an exalted position or whatever, as governor or an officer of the organization and whatnot. But that, you know, when you talk to members of the bar, the practicing attorneys, they may practice for 30 or 40 or 50 years and had no interaction whatsoever with the bar, and receiving a letter or email or whatever from time to time. And so, you know, I think that sometimes we can overestimate, you know, the impact on the bar at large. Yes, we need to have a positive impact. We need to work to improve our services to the bar and the public at large, our membership. But you know, I think that we also have to kind of get the big picture as well. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Todd, and then Brent. And I'm not seeing any hands up past that, so this may be our last comment. Was I very glad you have Brent?
Woohoo, save me the trouble of having to call the question. I just wanted to kind of co-sign to what Mary said and ask everyone to remember this tomorrow when we're talking about legislative priorities. In my exalted position of having now been here for 4 years, what I'm realizing is we really take myopic approaches to the issues when we need to be looking at the totality of the association. Yes, we have staff. What are those staff doing? They're working their butts off. And so we take time. Yes, it takes time. Do you want to know when the insurance industry began looking at AI? In 2013. Why do I know that? Because I told them to. That's been 10 years that they've been working on getting policy language because it's regulated, and to get insurance language is a big deal. And so I agree, we are late to the party. We've had a lot of conversations and a lot of sitting around rooms and a lot of talking. And part of the answer is because what can the bar do to help bring defense attorneys to OMAC. Not a whole lot. We can't hire for them. We can't give them their money. But what can the bar do? We can have bar bills that are talking about supporting our courts and supporting the investment in the legal system from our state legislature. So I'm just giving you a little preview about where I'm going to be wanting to focus tomorrow morning's conversation, not on the two things that are there. I hope those get raised and addressed in 2 minutes, and we can talk about my other issues, which is funding indigent civil appeals. And the fact that after the listening tour, the only county we heard where they're not having a crisis seemed to have been Walla Walla County. So I'm not telling you to go coach defense attorneys from Walla Walla County, because that would be wrong, but they aren't in the same crisis as many of the other counties. So, you know, this is where I would ask everyone, as we prepare for these meetings, as we are here making decisions, that we look at the entirety of the association and how we can actually help implement these things, because it's not just one staff person that's then going to write a report that's going to go to Director Nabbit that will come to us. It's all of the people in all of the different teams that work together. You know, Kevin's team with the people who are actually doing the psychologist and doing the member outreach. I mean, there's so many moving parts. They're interrelated, that this is just the beginning. And I would hope that we can improve this and we move forward, and that we start to do better as a board as we bring these issues to us and actually work to make a positive impact for our members, for the public, and for the association.
All right, thank you very much, Brent. It was pointed out to me and I overlooked it before. Director Nagowski, I see your hand is up online. Did you have a comment?
Can I call a question?
No, yeah.
I wasn't gonna say laughter. I think a lot of comments have been made about, even though you're picking 3, that means that it's not like we're dropping them. Sorry, picking 4. It's kind of just this back end way of saying, even though you know, as Sarah said, a lot of this is about what you're communicating and what you're focusing on. I think that's really important, but we're still doing this other stuff as well. So in terms of public engagement, like that sits so heavy and big on my heart and Diana's heart and Hunter's heart. I think we have a few kind of concrete things to bring back to you as governors, as ambassadors, that really don't have a fiscal note, but kind of get us aspirationally looking at that. And I know there's a few governors, like in particular Jordan, I heard from Tom, who I think we're going to continue to brainstorm and really think about the unique role that the state bar does to support and convene and speak to the public, because you know, as an operational priority, that's really big for me. And so maybe this is a year of really kind of planning and looking at that straight, and maybe it comes back next year, but I don't intend to drop this. You're picking 3 or 4, but really all of it is still happening, kind of to Nancy's point as well, so.
All right, thank you very much, Director Nagowski. I'm not seeing any further hands here in the room or online, so I intend to move forward to a roll call vote in just a moment. As a brief look ahead, we've been efficient with our time this morning. I thank everybody for that. My plan would be to proceed, this is kind of a bit of a heads up for Brent, to the Personnel Committee proposed process for discussion of the Executive Director's evaluation that was set for 11:45. We'll move that forward. And then, good time permitting, we will go ahead and have the Governor Roundtable for lunch. So with that, we will proceed on to a roll call vote. Executive Director. On the motion made by Brent and seconded by, I think it was Kari. Thank you.
Would you summarize the motion?
Yes. I will, yes. Thank you very much, Kevin. The motion, as I understand it, is the maker and the second, please correct me if I'm wrong, is to adopt the 4 priorities for the organization for FY24, with the 3 recommended priorities of outlining executive director's memo, and the 4th being rural practice. Thank you.
All right. Francis Adewale.
Aye.
Tom Ahern.
Aye.
Sunita Angela.
Aye.
Todd Bloom.
Aye.
Jordan Couch.
Aye.
Matthew Dredson.
Aye.
Kevin Fay.
Aye.
Christina Larry. Aye. Nam is not present. Kari Petrasek.
Aye.
Mary Rathbone. Aye. Serena is not present. Allison Whitney.
Aye.
And Brett.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you, Executive Director Nevitt, and thank you all. That was a healthy and again efficient discussion. I appreciate it.